From boredom to bucket list, the ultimate guide to hobbies that heal, entertain, and even pay part. Rediscovering, reignite curiosity, rebuild purpose, and reframe retirement as a beginning. Chapter 1. The Myth of Retirement. Why You're Not Done Yet. I felt like I'd vanished. That's what Daniel said to me over tea one winter morning, 6 weeks into his retirement. After 42 years in the airline industry, he'd been celebrated with speeches, a cake, and a gold-engraved watch. Then Monday came and no one called. No schedule. No meetings. No reason to put on shoes. He didn't miss the grind. He missed the rhythm. And more than that, he missed feeling needed. Daniel's story isn't rare. It's the story no one puts in retirement brochures. You retire to freedom but discover a void. What most people call freedom can feel at first like disappearance. And yet, what if I told you that retirement is not the end of your purpose, but the beginning of your authorship? What if this next chapter was not a decline, but a rise? What if finally you get to write the script? A lie that got repeated. Let's begin with a truth that's hiding in plain sight. Retirement was never meant to be an ending. It was meant to be a becoming. But for decades, culture told a different story. That you work, you retire, and then you wind down. As though retirement were a long nap until the final bell. It's a myth with real damage. Because here's what doesn't get enough airtime. Most retirees don't want to do nothing. Most retirees are not too old to learn new skills. Most retirees feel younger than their birth certificate suggests. And most retirees still have decades ahead of them. In other words, there's still time. Plenty of it. The real question isn't how long you'll live. It's how lit up you'll feel while you do. Why purpose doesn't retire. Psychologists have shown what many retirees feel instinctively. We don't outgrow our need for purpose. We grow into it. That's why the happiest retirees don't retire from. They retire to. They move toward creativity, connection, contribution, curiosity, challenge. This book is about all of those. It's about what happens when you give yourself permission to begin again, with play as your compass and meaning as your measure. And hobbies? They're not just cute time fillers. They are how we recover wonder. They are how we rebuild identity. From career to curiosity, Daniel, from earlier, didn't stay lost. He started taking photos of birds in his backyard. Nothing fancy at first. Just a borrowed camera and a lot of blurry feathers. Then he joined a local birding group. Then he started keeping journals. Then he gave a talk at a library. Then his wife joined him. And now, every Saturday, they lead a community nature walk. He didn't become someone new. He just finally let the rest of him out. That's what happens when you stop asking, "What should I do now?" and start asking, "What brings me back to life?" Try this today. Take 5 minutes and ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. What's something I used to enjoy but gave up for time? 2. What's one thing I've always wanted to learn? 3. What would make me forget to check the time? Write them down. Don't worry if they seem silly or unrealistic. Write them anyway. That list is more honest than most retirement plans. Reflection prompt. If your next 20 years were titled like a book, what would the title be? Write it down. Say it out loud. Start imagining the first chapter. What you'll learn in this book over the coming chapters. We're going to explore over 100 ways to reignite your life. Some creative, some adventurous, some quiet and solitary, some community-based, some just plain silly, some surprisingly profitable. We'll walk through how to start hobbies with zero experience, how to meet others through shared interests, how to find meaning in your hours again, and how to make this chapter richer than the last one. You don't need to be talented. You don't need to be tech-savvy. You just need to be willing to start where you are. Why this book exists? Because too many good people are sitting on the couch wondering if their best days are behind them. They are not. Because too many creative souls were never allowed to be creative until now. You're allowed now. Because you didn't come this far to shrink. You came this far to expand. And because no one told you that retirement wasn't a finish line, it was a front door. Retiree wisdom. When I stopped introducing myself as a retired accountant and started saying, "I make stained glass," something inside me unlocked. It wasn't the glass. It was my permission. Marie, 68, Phoenix Chapter 2, The Power of Play After 60. I forgot what time it was. I forgot how old I was. I just laughed. That's how Gloria, 72, described the moment she reconnected with joy. She was painting, badly she insisted, with a group of retirees who met every Wednesday in the park. We were all just making a mess, she said, but I felt like I had wings. That's the power of play. It has nothing to do with being childish. It has everything to do with being fully alive. And the truth? Most of us weren't raised to play past childhood. We were taught to produce, to achieve, to strive, to prove. And then suddenly, retirement comes. The striving stops. The noise quiets. The calendar empties. And for the first time in years, you're left with space. Space to wander. Space to create. Space to play. The only question is, will you give yourself permission to fill it? Why play isn't silly, it's survival. Scientists have been catching up to something the soul has always known. Play is one of the most vital ingredients for a long, happy life. Neurologist Stuart Brown, founder of the National Institute for Play, studied hundreds of people across professions, from Nobel laureates to welders, and found a striking pattern. Those who lived with playfulness in their daily routines were more mentally resilient, more socially connected, less likely to experience depression, and lived with greater life satisfaction. Here's why. Play triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Play increases neural plasticity, keeping the brain flexible and adaptive. Play encourages creativity, movement, laughter, and connection. Play reminds us that joy doesn't need permission. It just needs space. But I'm not a playful person. Let's debunk that now. Everyone plays, but we don't all play the same way. Some of us play through imagination, writing, painting, storytelling. Some of us play through movement, dancing, walking, tinkering. Some of us play through challenge, puzzles, games, new skills. Some of us play through nurture, gardening, mentoring, animal care. Some of us play through adventure, traveling, exploring, trying the unexpected. If you've ever lost track of time, laughed until your stomach hurt, built something for no reason, learned something just because, or found yourself glowing after an activity, you've played. You just didn't call it that. Rediscovering the lost hours. When did you last lose track of time and joy? That question has unlocked more than one tear and more than one comeback. Because for many retirees, the honest answer is, I can't remember. That's not failure. That's fatigue. It's what happens after a lifetime of service, responsibility, and survival. But here's the good news. Those hours you thought were lost, they're still yours. You just haven't met them yet. Gloria's wake-up call. Gloria, from earlier, had been widowed for 6 years. She spent most of her time cleaning a house that no longer felt like home. She said she didn't need a hobby. She needed her husband back. Then her neighbor invited her to an art in the park day. Just once. She didn't know how to paint. She didn't want to go. But she went. And when she came back, she said something changed. I remembered what it felt like to have nothing at stake. No outcome. Just color and laughter and light. Today, she's not a great painter, but she paints every week. Not for mastery, for aliveness. That's what play does. It turns routine into radiance. Try this today. The play inventory. Grab a notebook and answer these 5 questions. 1. What did I love doing as a child? 2. What have I always wanted to try but thought was not for people like me? 3. What activities make me forget to check my phone or the time? 4. Who are the most playful people I know? And what do they do? 5. What's one thing I could do this week just for fun, with zero pressure? Highlight one item from your answers. Now do it. Just once. Just to see what wakes up. Reflection prompt. If joy were a color, what shade would today be? If play were a sound, what would it say to you? Write it out. Let your imagination stretch a little. That's part of the fun. The habit of joy. Here's something people often miss. Play is not just a moment. It can be a practice. Try making a weekly joy appointment. Choose 1 hour each week. Block it on your calendar. Devote it to unproductive delight. Do something you've never done before. Keep a joy journal for a month. Track your energy, your mood, your creativity. Notice how play transforms the day around it. Retiree wisdom. I thought hobbies were a waste of time. Then I joined a ukulele group. Now I look forward to Tuesdays like a kid at Christmas. Harold, 67, London, you are wired for joy. Here's the truth that changes everything. Joy is not a luxury, it's a signal. It tells you where you come alive. And play? That's the path joy walks on. It doesn't matter how long it's been. It doesn't matter if you're good at it. The point isn't performance, it's permission. You are still creative. You are still curious. You are still capable of discovery. You have the right to reclaim play. And the beautiful thing is, when you do, you don't just feel younger. You feel more you. Chapter 3. Who am I without my job? When I stopped introducing myself by what I did, I didn't know who I was. That's what Carlos said, sitting across from me at a community storytelling circle in San Diego. He had retired 3 months earlier after 4 decades as a high school principal. He hadn't missed the 6 a.m. alarm or the late-night parent meetings, but he did miss something else, something harder to name. I miss being someone people turn to, he said. I miss having a title that meant something. Then he looked down at his hands, folded on his lap. Now I'm just Carlos. This chapter is for Carlos, and for you, if you've ever wondered, who am I now that I don't have a badge, a desk, a team, or a title? The great identity unraveling. We don't talk about it enough, but retirement often begins with an identity crisis. It's not that your job was your whole life, but it was a lens through which you saw yourself, a rhythm that gave structure, a role that gave clarity, name people knew you by. When that disappears, you may find yourself asking, am I still valuable? Am I still needed? Who am I when no one's calling? This isn't weakness. It's natural. It's honest. And it's the beginning of reinvention. The you before the business card. Let's step back for a moment. Before the promotions, before the kids, before the deadlines, before the world handed you expectations, and you did your best to meet them. There was a version of you that existed long before you became doctor, teacher, manager, engineer, mom, boss, breadwinner, or provider. That version may not have had a title, but it had dreams. Maybe you loved drawing race cars on the backs of cereal boxes. Maybe you wrote poetry in the margins of your math book. Maybe you danced alone in your room or took apart radios just to see what was inside. Maybe you didn't know what you'd be, but you knew you had something. Then life happened. Responsibility happened. You became someone useful, productive, reliable, respected. But now is the time to remember who you were before the world needed you to be useful. Carlos's turn. 2 weeks after that storytelling circle, Carlos came back with a different light in his eyes. He said something remarkable. I remembered that when I was a kid, I used to build tiny boats out of scrap wood and race them in the canal behind my grandmother's house. I haven't thought about that in 50 years. The next week, he brought one of his new models. He had started carving again. He even joined a group of model shipbuilders, retired engineers, artists, and dreamers like him. And that tiny boat? It wasn't just wood. It was remembrance. He said, I'm still a builder, just not of schools anymore. Now I build joy. Let's get practical. When you're no longer defined by your job, you need a new framework for identity. Here's a starting point. Ask yourself, 1. What brought me joy before I had a job? 2. What do I know now that I wish I had time to explore earlier? 3. What traits do people value in me beyond my profession? 4. When do I feel most like myself? 5. What role do I want to play in my family, my community, my own life now? Write your answers in a notebook or journal. Don't rush. Let old memories surface. This is how you begin to remember you. Try this today. Create 2 lists. List A, titles you've held. Write down all your major roles and professional titles. Let them all out. CEO, nurse, soldier, mom, supervisor, entrepreneur. List B, who you are without titles. For each title, ask, what quality or strength did this reveal in me? Example, nurse might become compassionate listener or calm in crisis. Now, Circle the qualities that still feel true today. Those are the seeds of your next self. Reflection, prompt, describe the version of yourself that existed before the career. Who were you? What did you love? What did you believe about life, joy, or possibility? Give that version of you a name. Talk to them. Ask them what they'd still like to do. Retiree wisdom. When I stopped being the lawyer and started being Lola the dancer, I felt younger than I had in years. I still read court opinions, for fun. But now I take tango lessons. I'm not retired. I'm rewired. Lola, 70, Madrid. New way to introduce yourself. Here's a small but profound change you can try. Instead of saying, I used to be a Ane, try saying, I'm exploring Amaing these days, or I've taken up Arai lately and it's been such a joy. It invites curiosity. It tells the world you're becoming, not just looking back. You don't need a business card to be somebody. You need curiosity. You need wonder. You need you.